and welcome to today's annual business meeting. Due to the unique nature of the virtual meeting, I have a few procedural announcements today. Use of the chat box during the meeting is for designated delegates and alternates. This will allow them to make or second motions or to gain access to address the meeting for other reasons as needed. Chat box will automatically display your name, but we do ask that you also identify your credit union to assist with the record keeping for the minutes. Also, please type in motion or second in the chat box to identify which of these actions you are taking. When there is a need to cast votes for any motions, a polling box will pop up on your screen. At that time, please indicate a yes or no to allow us to verify the passing of the motion. If any other participants have questions or comments during the meeting, please use the Q&A box available and an association staff member will respond. I now call the 74th annual meeting of the Association of Vermont Credit Unions to order. I call upon Secretary Rick Hummel for incorporation of the official call into the minutes of this meeting and for the report of the Credentials Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Gammon. The official call to the 74th annual meeting of the Association of Vermont Credit Unions was sent via electronic mail to all member credit unions on March 26, 2021. The Credentials Committee reports that there are 10 member credit unions present for a total of 20 votes.
Thank you, Rick. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the general rules of order as published and provided in your delegate package.
I have a motion from John Dwyer and a second from Tracy Thibodeau of Vermont VA.
Thank you. Please indicate if you are in favor or opposed to this motion through the use of the polling box on your screen.
And give us one moment to display that. And it looks like nobody voted in opposition, so the motion has passed. Thank you.
Motion is passed. Thank you. I would now like to introduce the association's board members. Carrie Allen, Vice Chair from Heritage Family. Lisa Heyer, Treasurer, North Country. Rick Hummel, Secretary, Vermont State Employees. Director Jean Gaillard, Vermont Federal. Director Greg Haar, New England Federal. And Director Brett Smith, One Credit Union. I'd also like to introduce Richard Brock from the Association's Legal Counsel of Brock & Brock and appoint Mr. Brock as parliamentarian for our business meeting today. I'd also like to thank the Association staff members who are participating in today's meeting and thank them for their outstanding support during the past year. I am appointing Mary Robert as our recording secretary for the minutes of this meeting and recognize that Association staff members John Cody and Michelle Fullerton are serving as our Credentials Committee today. I'd also like to welcome Todd Burgess of A.M. Peisch, our certified public accountants, to today's meeting. The minutes of the 73rd annual meeting have been published and provided in your delegate packets. I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept them as published.
We have a motion made by Matt Lewandowski, Heritage Family, and a second by Tracy Thibodeau, Vermont VA.
Thank you.
We talked about it all last season, not this season.
And it looks like nobody has voted in opposition, so the minutes of the last annual meeting are approved.
Thank you, Joe. Is there any new business to be conducted at this meeting? Hearing none, and given that there is no old business from last year's meeting, we will move on to item number 8, elections. I now call upon Vice Chair Carrie Allen, who is also the chair of the nominating committee, to conduct the elections portion of this meeting.
Good afternoon. The final report of the nominating committee is published on the reports page of the association's online annual yearbook and was emailed to all delegates and alternates on Wednesday, June 2nd. I'd like to thank my fellow committee members, Wanda Dunham of White River Credit Union and Bob Lake of Green Mountain Credit Union, for their service to the committee. No petition requests to add candidates to the ballot were received on or before the announced deadline of May 14th. Since no petition candidates were received, absentee ballots are unnecessary for this election, and the slate remains Sean Gammon, Members Advantage Community Credit Union, Rick Hummel, Vermont State Employees Credit Union, and Lisa Heyer, North Country Federal Credit Union. As there are 3 expiring positions and 3 candidates, I declare Sean, Rick, and Lisa elected by acclamation. Congratulations to you. Mr. Chairman, I return the meeting to you.
Thank you, Carrie. I've had the great pleasure of serving on the board of directors for the past 18 years, the last 10 of which have been as the chair. And I've always taken great pride in this role and have been humbled to serve for such a long period of time. I am stepping down as the board chair immediately following this meeting, and would like to sincerely thank each of the current and previous directors whom I've served with. Very proud of the great work that our association does, and I'd also like to thank President Bergeron for his leadership over the years in making my role as chair both an easy one and rewarding one. I'll now ask Joe to provide a few comments for us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and in particular, thank you for your service as board chair for this past decade. And if we were in an in-person environment like we hope to be next year, there would be a round of applause for you and lots of kudos and that kind of stuff. But since we're virtual, even if everybody's applauding, most of us can't hear it. But there are a few things that I want to share with everyone that about your time on the board that maybe some of the people online are not aware of. You know, Sean was first elected to our board in 2003, has not only been a board chair, but was treasurer for 3 or 4 years from 2005 to 2008, became vice chair in 2008 for another 3 years, and then began his role as chair in 2011 at that annual meeting. So those 10 years since then, as I think Sean, I don't think he pointed it out, but is the longest consecutive service as a board chair of any board member or any chairman of our association's 74-year history. And there have been 22 chairs of the Association of Vermont Credit Unions, previously Vermont Credit Union League, with Sean being the 22nd. And so, you know, that's quite a contribution on a volunteer basis to be serving on this board from 2003 to 2021, but in particular as board chair for the most recent 10 of those years. So thank you, Sean, for your tremendous contribution to Vermont Credit Unions and our association as its elected leader for this past decade, and your service on the board prior to that. And we know your service on the board continues, but we wanted to take this moment to particularly note that leadership role that you've had and all the time that you've dedicated to it. And we will maybe this time next year be able to reward you with a more significant in-person round of applause and other appropriate recognition and whatnot. The other item that I want to mention to everyone, we had invited Governor Scott to share some time with us, a few minutes. But as you can imagine, during a pandemic, even though we're on the heels of it, there's a lot of demands on his time, and he intended to be with us, but just in the past couple of days, let us know he wasn't going to be able to be here, but did provide this letter that he asked me to read to you. And it's addressed, dear members of Association of Vermont Credit Unions, while I'm disappointed I can't be with you for your annual meeting, I wanted to send along a few words as you kick off this event. First, thank you for all you've done over the past 15 months to adapt operations to meet the health guidance helping Vermont combat COVID-19 and keep your employees and members safe. The flexibility of financial institutions as you continued your operations has been an important part of our pandemic response. I especially appreciate your partnership to help businesses in applying for and receiving economic relief. The work of our local credit unions was essential for Vermont to maximize the impact of the funding granted to small businesses. The pandemic has taken a toll on individuals and businesses alike. I know that credit unions, like many other employers in the state and across the nation, are facing workforce shortages. Please know that I remain committed to strengthening Vermont's communities to help our state attract more families and workers. That is why my administration is working with the legislature to continue the worker relocation program and make significant investments in expanding broadband access and creating more affordable housing. I appreciate Vermont Credit Union's commitment to the communities you serve and the presence credit unions have within our state. The work you do to make financial services affordable and accessible to everyone, including underserved populations, is important. I hope you all enjoy today's gathering. Sincerely, Philip B. Scott, Governor, State of Vermont. So thank you for that, Governor Scott. We appreciate your leadership during the past year plus, and you're taking time to send a message to Vermont credit unions. So a couple more comments from me, and then we'll move on. I'll be short. You know, everybody that you've listened to in any webinar or Zoom meeting like this has commented, particularly of late, about what a challenging time it's been since the start of this pandemic and whatnot. And you know, anything I say along those lines is just redundant, but it is true. It's been challenging operationally for all of you as credit unions serving Vermont consumers, and less so for us as a trade association. But you know, we all learned a lot of new things along the way. And I think back to when this pandemic started a year ago, this past March, and reflecting how just internally, you know, we sat around a conference table in our office remarking on, you know, how are we going to do this stuff? How are we going to handle A, B, and C, and so on and so forth? And, you know, through a lot of innovation and creativity in our office, in your offices, and businesses all across the state, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, and that's what's happened the past year. And so, you know, we, over the past year, your staff of the Association of Vermont Credit Unions remained, even became more so, very effective in their jobs, I think. And Vermont credit unions, as the governor cited, deserve a ton of compliments for the outstanding efforts they put forth. And I know I don't have data to share with you today, but we've done it in the past. We've done a number of different surveys of credit unions and what you've done and when you've done it, for how much and for how many and all of that. And the things Vermont credit unions have done and the things that we haven't surveyed on are just awesome. Vermont credit unions as cooperatives have done great work in service to Vermont communities. And you're all, whether you're a volunteer or staff in any Vermont credit union, to be commended for all of that fine work. We, in our office, you can see I'm remote, and most of us, to varying degrees, are remote. We are working on returning. You know, I compare notes with my peers throughout the country as recently as yesterday, but we have meetings every week or so on this. And so everyone's kind of in the same mode. It's kind of feeling their way around, knowing that, you know, whatever we do in the future is going to be a new way of doing business, which is probably the case to a certain extent for all of you as well. And so we're working that out, and we'll be trying some different things starting as early as next week and through the summer. And so we'll keep you apprised of all of that. But the important thing is that whether we've been working in the office, as we've been doing recently, for a person or two a day in our office, typically, particularly for the past 6 months or so, or whether everybody's remote, in our service to Vermont credit unions, unless you're seeing us on a webinar like this, you know, no one has really noticed a difference. So, you know, kudos to my colleagues at the association for the dedication and hard work that they've provided over the past 14, 15 months or so. You know, through my 4+ decades of work in the association, a lot of people have come and gone on our staff. But I can truthfully tell you that I've never had any more dedicated or hardworking combination of people than the group that we have right at this moment. And that's fortunate for having the flexibility and the dedication to stick with us through these challenging times. We did in 2020, at the end of 2020, well financially as an association. And I'm proud to report, and the board was proud to approve another patronage refund of $175,000 at the end of 2020 to distribute to member credit unions. We're not a cooperative, we're a trade association of cooperatives, but we're not legally a cooperative ourselves. And so a patronage refund, whether it's 0 or 175, or sometimes it's been higher than that, is never guaranteed or promised or anything along those kinds of lines. But when we can do it, we're very proud to do so because that's kind of unique among trade associations of any size, particularly small ones like us, which are probably the prominent case in Vermont. So I'm really pleased that in such a challenging year that we were able to maintain that. And with that, I've already thanked my colleagues on staff. I want to thank all of our board members for the hard work they do for our association. And I assure you that, when they are serving on that board of directors, they have their association and Vermont Credit Union family hats on, not their individual credit union hats. And I think that's important for any board of directors of any organization. So thanks and kudos to all of them for their dedication and their understanding of what our role is in the association. So Mr. Chair, I think that's it from me for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for your 43 years of service with the association. We encourage you to review all the available reports that have been published and made available to you with the delegate package. The association's website is also a great reference for Vermont credit union data throughout the year. Is there any discussion on any of these reports? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with further reports and accept them as published.
Motion from Tracy Thibodeau, Vermont VA. Second from John Dwyer, New England Federal.
And again, there's no objection to the motion, so it passes.
Great, thank you. Thank you again for participating in today's meeting. Please join us at 4 o'clock for the final event of the virtual annual meeting, featuring speaker and author Gene Marks, who will deliver his presentation entitled Post-COVID Opportunities and the Biden Administration. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I'd also like to thank Mike Shank for his economic insights earlier this afternoon. And finally, I'd like to recognize and thank the presenting sponsors of our annual meeting: CUNA Mutual Group, PSCU, Origins, and Cabot Creamery Cooperative. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion from John Dwyer, New England Federal. Second from Matt Lewandowski, Heritage Family.
Thank you.
And it'll be interesting to see who votes in opposition to this motion, but it's always a possibility. And more people voted in favor than any other motion, so it's desirable. So that concludes this motion.
Motion is officially passed, and the 74th annual meeting of the Association of Vermont Credit Unions now stands adjourned. Thank you.